About 8 years ago, I made a video reviewing Fallout 4. In this video, I stated that while I had fun with the game, I was not liking the general direction the franchise was going in. This was mostly due to the general dumbing down of the role-playing elements. Not long after that, Bethesda released Fallout 76. I didn't play it, and still haven't to this day, mostly due to the controversial launch, but also the microtransaction-riddled gameplay and marketing that made it look like a retro-futuristic Fortnite. Therefore, not my cup of tea. Fast forward to this year, I was somewhat interested in the Fallout TV series, but unfortunately I lost interest when I learned of some story decisions that I felt were dismissive or even spiteful towards the origins of the Fallout story. Around this time, I heard rumblings of an upcoming independently developed mod of Fallout 4 called Fallout London. As the name suggested, this mod was to explore what a post-apocalyptic London would have looked like. And then it was put on indefinite hold after Bethesda introduced a curiously timed and unnecessary update for Fallout 4 that broke the mod completely. All of this was a difficult pill for me to swallow, but after some bitterness, I came to accept the fact that part of getting older is accepting that demographics change, and it's important to know when to let go of a franchise. After a few months, I had completely forgotten about the Fallout London mod, but then, all of a sudden, it was released to the masses. After an extremely tedious installation, for the record I had the Steam version, I was cautiously optimistic, but more curious than anything. Over the years, I'd grown weary of game websites and studios overpromising and under-delivering. However, very quickly, I realised just how ambitious this project actually was. One of the first things I noticed was just how tough this game actually was. Turns out it was unintentional because of a bug and later fixed in a patch. But I found that putting the difficulty setting at hard was a good balance. I would not recommend putting the difficulty setting at survival in its current state, for reasons that I'll get into later. The next big thing that I noticed was that the map was huge. After I'd been to a few locations and opened the map for the first time, my jaw dropped. People who say that the map is around the same size as Fallout 4's were not exaggerating. I would say that the locations are fantastic in Fallout London, possibly even better than Fallout 4's. Varieties include the pristine Westminster, the Wimbledon Parklands, an anarchic rundown Camden, a radiated hellscape in Greenwich, and Millwall, which is about the same as it is now. The voice acting is great, with some big names in there apparently. Some small exceptions in quality here and there, but overall I'd say it was generally on par with Bethesda's titles. I was a bit disappointed that some NPCs had no voices at all and would just stare at you when you tried to interact with them, but I could look past it. There is a surprisingly good range of companions that feel fleshed out and very human. I would actually call them the most standout feature of Fallout London after the map design. It's just a shame how often they went missing. For the record, my favourites were Kiera and Mountbatten. On a related note, the dialogue system was a return to the New Vegas style, which I much preferred to the jarring Fallout 4 dialogue system. The background music was really good and felt very Fallout-y. The radio stations were excellent as well, especially the flagship one called The Mend. This radio station had a lot of British-flavoured songs, from jingoistic anthems, iconic folk songs, hymns, and original fan-made retro pop songs of very high quality. The more I think about it, I think that The Mend is actually the best radio station of any Fallout game, official or otherwise. Another radio station was exclusively classical music, which I was initially disinterested in, but over time gave me a renewed appreciation of classics by composers such as Camille Saint-Saëns and Edvard Elgar. Weapons, apparel and mods were of standard fare, but no complaints. It was good to see a return of the Enfield and the FN FAL in a Fallout game. The consumables were very fun though, as they had an unapologetically British flair to them. Seeing items like Ion Brew, Warmite, fish and chips, Wiedebrechts and Conkers always put a smile on my face. The overall writing and quest designs were decent. Some quests were much more engaging than others, though the logistics of needing voice actors might have impacted on this. On a related note, the various factions throughout the game were a bit hit and miss, and I feel that they weren't as fleshed out as they could have been. The game forces you at one point to pick a side, but at that stage, I didn't feel like I had a clear picture of what the factions stood for, or what their end goals were. I also felt that there was too much focus on combat at times. These are all only minor complaints though. A more significant complaint I have though is about the performance issues, and those who have played the title will know exactly what I'm talking about. While I can forgive some of this because at the end of the day this was a fan project with limited resources and hey, it was free, I found myself occasionally frustrated by the exceptionally long loading times and sporadic crashes. Some quests were also broken and could only be completed by using console commands. At the time of releasing this video, I'm actually convinced that at this stage the game cannot be completed without using fast travel or console commands, which admittedly is a blemish on the release in its current state. At this point, I'd say the game is about 98% complete, and just needs a final 1 or 2 layers of polish. The developers are currently working on a second patch, so it may be in your best interest to wait a short while until everything is ironed out. Earlier this week, I finally finished my playthrough after pumping in 180 hours, getting to level 64. I'm a bit of a completionist though, so most players will complete it in a much shorter time. Overall, despite my gripes with performance issues, I was gripped from start to finish and had a lot of fun with this experience. Now that the experience has ended, I've had a chance to let my thoughts settle. This is where I'm gonna have some spicy takes. Without trying to sound dramatic, this game is nothing short of a triumph, and I cannot believe how a project this complicated was able to get finished. Let it be said, this is not a mod. To call Fallout London a mod would be like calling a turkey dinner a snack. This is a full, original game. In my opinion, Bethesda have barely done anything interesting with the Fallout property in almost a decade, and there's no real direction. This change in setting was refreshing, especially since the whole premise of the series is the aftermath of a global catastrophe. While I don't expect another project like this will ever come to fruition, it poses some interesting possibilities in the future. It also shows that a Fallout game outside of America is viable, while still maintaining its core identity. On another note, lame as it may sound, as an Australian, this game gave me a greater appreciation of my cultural roots and was even educational in some respects. As far as I'm concerned, this game is canon, a true Fallout 4.5 and a giant middle finger towards Bethesda, a creatively stagnant studio that hasn't even given these developers a peep of support or acknowledgement. This is the most significant fan project I've ever seen in the gaming sphere, and the Fallout London team have every right to be proud of what they have achieved. Also, on a personal level, they did the unthinkable, and somehow were able to make me a fan of the Fallout franchise once more. Thank you, Team Fallen. Thank you.